When you start living with the end in mind, everything starts to change. What are people going to say about you? What message is your life going to speak when you're long gone? Because you weren't born by accident. You didn't just happen to be where you're at and happen to watch this video. There is always a reason.
Okay. I suddenly remembered. I was going to say, how do you like to be known? I mean, I consider you like an emerging prophetic voice, I guess, in the nation and world, but you're such a humble guy. And I'm going to talk about that, like humility. So I'm going to introduce you in the most simple way.
Awesome, man. Love it. I'm a simple guy.
So on the top right, you should have a comment section that you can click, and you'll see people's comments now as people jump on.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's cool. This is cool, man. First for me.
First time live. I saw you recorded, so you have your own podcast, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We'll tell people about that too. And then,
cool.
And then you were on a podcast recently?
Yeah. I was on a local guys here show. We recorded it in October.
Okay.
So and then you just put it out this week.
Pre-recorded one.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's the first time live. Yeah.
Well, live podcast. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I like this because it's just real and simple, easy.
It's my style, man.
Jump on with the prophet.
Oh.
The Kiwi prophet. But you're a combo. We're going to talk about all of that.
It's going to be cool, man. I'm excited. Thanks for having me on, bro.
Bro, this is so good. It's an honor for me. I'm pumped. So we just wait another minute and a half as Facebook just rolls this thing out. What's up, guys? Good morning. Good afternoon, America. Hope you guys are well. Just a quick reminder to share this around, let people know, especially here in New Zealand. I think this is going to be a good chat. It's going to be an important chat, interesting chat, and it's going to be fun. So grab your coffee or your tea or your lunch, whatever you're up to. P-Town in the house. There's Porirua. There you go.
Yay. Man, this is cool. I'm amazed at how this is all happening. The comments, the video. This is cool, man. I love it.
We have a very engaged tribe, and we are
cool.
Family, so
that's awesome, man. Family's huge, eh?
It's massive. We can talk about that.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, that'll be an important part. All right, well, let's get into this. So welcome to Fuse Life Podcast, episode 102. We are all about God-given assignment and how heaven meets earth in and through you and me. And so my guest today from New Zealand, a town or a place called Porirua, and he's going to explain that a little bit more, is an emerging prophetic voice here. He released a few prophetic words in the last few months that have really caught wind. And they grabbed me because of the hope. I think in this season, guarding hope is very, very, very important. And so I loved his words because they screamed hope. And that's who Jesus is. He is hope. And so it really gripped me. But then I got on a phone call with him, and then it blew my mind how simple and humble and real he was. We connected like nothing else. And so super pumped to have you on here, Lee. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thanks for having me on, brother. It's great. This is cool. But I'm just amazed at how this whole thing works. Oh my gosh, technology is cool.
But firstly, I just want to say, I honor your humility big time. Our conversation, I really loved it, man. And I know people are going to love listening to you and your heart, and they're going to see why God is starting to expand your voice, your reach. The Bible says you can't get anything other than from heaven. A man can receive nothing except from heaven. And I can see the season you're coming into, bro. So super pumped to have you. Why don't you just let people know a little bit about you currently, like what you do right now, where you live, who you're with, all that kind of stuff.
For sure. Awesome. Yeah, man, what a cool tribe you guys got here. I'm just watching all the comments man, you guys are family. So this is cool. And yeah, big hello and talofa to you all. My name is Lee Malaulau and based here in Porirua, Wellington, born and bred out this way. Living here with my wife, and we have 2 children and a third on the way, due in January actually. So
Congrats,
really
bro.
excited. Thank you, bro. Yeah, really excited. So we got my girl, she's 6. And then we have my boy, Riley, he's 3. Sorry, my girl's name is Mani. And then we're having another girl. And it's really cool because my big girl, my daughter, she was just adamant from the start. I want a sister. And she said, I'm going to have a sister. Boys are annoying. And she said, no, I asked Jesus and I'm going to have a sister. And so sure enough, a handful of weeks ago, we went for our 20-week scan and there you go, that's a girl. And so my daughter is wrapped in, and we're excited, man. We're really happy. So about to be a family of 5 in January, but loving life. Yeah.
So cool, man. And so you run a gym. Like, what do you do? What do you do for work and stuff like that?
Yeah, we do a couple of things, man. So we're personal trainers. So we work here from home. And we've been here about 3 years, set up at home. Prior to that, I worked in the bigger gyms and kind of been in the space for about 5-6 years now. And then outside of that, we do a bit of entrepreneurship and mentorship work with a collective and leadership type development, which is really cool. We're really, really grateful for everything we're learning there. And so I think the big goal for us is we've just always wanted more time freedom. You know, I wanted more time with my family. I wanted more time to kind of live by our values and on our terms, if you like, and to be able to use our life and our time to do the things that we're passionate about. Obviously, the kingdom is a huge thing for us and just people and how we can sow there, invest there. So we've always just tried to work our way towards some type of freedom, whatever that looks like. And we've learned a lot along the way and we're still learning and we've got a lot to learn. But it's great. We're feeling really, really grateful, really blessed with everything. So that's where we're at the moment, bro.
Come on, man. That's amazing. There are so many things about you and how you kind of live your life based on what I've seen on social media that really resonate with me. And so I want to ask you a few questions on that. Like, let's start with this. Are you part of a ministry? Do you run a ministry? What's the deal there?
Yeah, good question, man. So we're part of a local home church movement at the moment. So it's quite fresh, quite new. In fact, the pastors who are overseeing it, they were actually the head pastors for about 20 years here in one of the kind of significant churches here in Wellington, and they just felt called to step down and start putting home churches into place. And then before we knew it, then lockdown happened, and so it was really timely. And obviously with everything that's come in, so we've been a part of that for the last several months, up to a year. Prior to that, we were at another local church and we were in the youth pastoral type role, but no real ministry of our own, but for us, life is ministry. So, I mean, you could call our PT is kind of our ministry, and just the way we try to carry ourselves and interact with our community and people in general anyway is for us every day is a moment of ministry. And we come from a youth and social work background as well. Opening stuff there, man. And it was incredibly fulfilling, but incredibly challenging because of some of the stuff you see and some of the stories and some of these young people and what they go through, and you see it face to face. And you hear about things like poverty and you hear about domestic violence and whatnot, but when you see it firsthand, especially in young people, it's not nice. It's not cool. It's very hard. And so, yeah, I think for us, we just always try to, purpose is a big thing. It's what you do, what you're doing with your tribe and your people, and, developing purpose. And I think it's such a critical thing. And that's just how we try to live our life. And the ministry is just part of that, I guess, in my eyes, at least.
Yeah, totally. And I agree with everything you're saying. Ministry, that word, we say it comes from administration, and we're all called to administer heaven on earth. I love it. I love what you're saying. And then your pastors, I just want to honor them. Like, that's a big deal, man. Like, for them to pivot and let things go. I think in this time, I have a few pastor friends of mine who have 2 or 3 branches who are now starting to let go as well and move into what's happening, So I honor your pastors, man. That's amazing. So if we keep moving on, like just quickly on your family, I saw on your profile, I see, you're taking your daughter on a date and you're touching all these subjects around holistic life. You talk about a morning routine, you're exercising. Half of our guys would know that that's exactly what we're about. So can you touch on that a little bit?
Nice. Awesome. Family. It's us. We understand each other then. Cool. Yeah. So we'll start with the morning routine stuff first then. And I've just always been a big believer that, how you start your day will kind of determine it. And I always talk about that hour of power in the morning and, gaining victory early. So I like to start my day quite early and at least get in a couple hours before the kids wake up. And that's just kind of my time to, one, just my spirit, get alone with the Father. I was always fascinated reading the Gospels and how Jesus would just, escape early hours in the morning and get alone with the Father. And I've always been attracted to that. And over the years, I've seen, the power of it really, and just what having that dedicated time looks like, not in a legalistic or religious way. It's just being intentional about growth. And so just having it implemented over the years and what that's created and the compound effect over that over time as well. I cannot recommend it enough. Yeah, it's just awesome. So I'll spend time, obviously alone with the Father and worship, pray, study, hear, listen, cry. It's always different, just whatever the moment it is, and I like to just flow with it. Obviously, like to get the body moving as well. So run, keeping fit, staying strong, and taking care of your temple, and just trying to be faithful with that too. Try to steward my health and my body, and because I understand and know that if I can take care of my body, then it better helps me. If when moments come up or ministry requirements, we know that it can be quite it can take a lot of energy and time. So I want to be strong and available for that kind of stuff as well. And then these daddy-daughter dates that you mentioned, for my girl, this girl changed my life, man. I remember, I'll tell you a quick story. So we didn't know what we were going to having. Porirua. We didn't know what we were going to have. And we wanted a surprise. And so we had a water birth. And when my girl came out, I lost it. Like I just lost it. I was a mess. I was crying. And so in between my tears and I left my girl under the water. I forgot to pull her up. I was just so overwhelmed. So here's God giving life, and I'm about to take life. So pulled her up quickly anyway. And in between my tears and just a mess, the umbilical cord was between her legs. So I thought that was the male's definitive object. So I'm thinking, this is my boy. And then the midwife removes the cord and goes, "You got a girl." And I remember just thinking, like my heart like hit, and all of a sudden this protective instinct kicked in, and this nurture, this I don't know, I just became very protective over her. Not in a negative way, but I understood like I've got to help her to develop and grow to become an independent, strong young girl who could hopefully, be independent, strong one day when mummy and daddy are no longer around. And so these daddy-daughter dates that we do for her, one, it's just to try and help her to see, well, hopefully look for qualities in another male. When she turns 95, then she can have a boyfriend. And so when she gets to that age and tries to, find another partner, that she would look for somebody who would have some of these qualities. And so I take her out on these daddy-daughter dates, and I have to dress up. So I put on a suit, tie, and then we go to a restaurant. We don't just go to McDonald's. McDonald's is cool too, but we go to an actual restaurant, open the door for her, sit her down, let her read the menu. And when a waiter or waitress comes, I get her to, tell her, okay, what would you like? You make the order, darling. So trying to teach her these qualities and these characteristics and independence. And I'm a really big believer in that our children, we teach what we know, but we impart what we are. And so you can say the right stuff and you can know the right thing, but if it's not seen in your life, then it's not what's going to pass on. And so I'm really big on leading by example and trying to show her and be a living epistle, if I can put it that way, to be the message. And so through just showing that and trying to be an example for that, I'm confident that she would take on those qualities and they'd be instilled in her. And then one day, when it's time for her to take her own path, she will already be prepared for the way. I talk big about not trying to prepare the path, but rather prepare your children for the path, so that regardless of what their path is, they're ready, they're strong, they're confident, they're courageous, they're compassionate, they're merciful, they're kind, all those things that we want to see. And so it starts with example. And so you can see that in a pressure way as a parent, but I see it as a real privilege and understanding that this is the greatest responsibility I'll ever have, is raising my daughter, raising my children to be godly, to be strong, to be wise, to have a love for Jesus. And that starts with me and my wife being that example first. So that's where it all comes from, man.
Come on, man. You're like my brother, literally from another mother. I love everything you're saying. This is awesome.
You're more handsome than me.
Here we go. So I just want to ask you something about what's going on in social media for you before we go into your story and that kind of thing. So I'm tracking your social media profile. I see that you don't post too often, but when you do, it's almost like, you want to post whatever God's kind of leading you into post, and you're talking about different subjects. You're talking about reading the word, and you're talking about holding stand. And can you tell me a little bit, like, how do you view your social media presence?
Yeah, I think it's twofold for me. One is I see it as kind of a portfolio that one day I would love my children and grandchildren to look back on and say, wow, this is what Papa did. This is the way that Papa lived. I want them to better look for, like, I guess my parents, we've got photo albums, but today we kind of have social media, so it's all kind of changing. So for me, I view my social media as kind of my portfolio that they'll be able to look back on one day. And so I try to post things that, with that in mind, obviously. And so I want them to see what I was like. I want them to see, like, what was Papa like, in that moment when they had that pandemic? What was Papa like? What was his stand? What did he do? How did he position himself? And I want them to see that. And so it gives me, again, we're talking about purpose, a bit of purpose behind what I'm sharing. But the other side of that too is that I'm like you, bro. I love empowering people. And I guess that is the nature of the Father. I mean, it's just a natural desire that's kind of come. And so I'm always wanting to share things that would uplift, that would encourage, that would empower, that would help people, that would also hopefully equip people just to, whatever it might be, to feel more confident in this current era, or to be more equipped in what they can do to upgrade their life, or to growth or personal development, whatever that might be. It's just, I always want to give something that can be tangible in another person's life as well. And yeah, I used to post frequently. Like, I'll be honest, I used to be real addicted to social media. Like, it was one of those things where I wanted the likes, man. I wanted the followers. And when you lose a follower, your heart breaks. And oh my goodness, like, I'm the worst person in the world. I've been there, man. Like, I understand all that. And I've fallen into that trap. I've posted from that position before of, I want likes. I want people to like me, and I want you to make me feel good and validate me and put me on a pedestal and pat me on the back. Like, I've been there, man. I understand all that. And so now it's changed a lot, because hopefully I've matured a little bit and gotten a little bit wiser. And so now there's less attachment to the emotions of it, I guess, and to the like and the follows. And I just want to be real intentional with it. And I'll just post things when I don't know if it's right to say when you feel the inspiration, because that's not always the case, but I'm not as engaged or addicted as I once was, at a time. Sure. I want to be really intentional, really purposeful. I find it's always more helpful if I'm hearing something from the Father. If there's something that is said to me that I'm like, okay, this is great to share, or this will equip and help. So that's kind of my take at the moment, man.
Awesome, man. Love it. So last thing before we go into the story, like, you're now seeing an expansion of your reach. Would you agree?
Yes.
God is opening things up to you. And, I have a friend who talks about it like a concealing and a revealing, and there is a season for a revealing, and it almost feels like you are now coming into that revealing season.
That's cool.
What are some things you think are important as God starts to give people more impact, influence, whether it's through wealth or through social media or through any channel, but they know that, okay, something's being opened up for me? What are some things that you consider important?
Intimacy. It's the most critical one, I believe, for me anyway. It's intimacy. And that as your reach might expand out there, my time alone has to expand even more. I've got to be ahead of the game behind closed doors, because we know that public exposure comes from private battles. And so the public revealing I might be having now come from private battles that you guys never see. You'll never see, because that's my time alone with Him. And so my time there is really what cultivates and brings about the exposure and the public recognition that I'm getting now. But I'm also aware that in that recognition, I need to be even more disciplined, if you like, with that private place. Because again, I've been in that place where, it was several years ago in the youth and social work, and ended up on the front page of the local paper, and had all these businesses who wanted to meet. And to be honest, like, it made me feel like I was the man. I felt like I was somebody special, and I got the biggest head that you would ever see. And so now all of a sudden I don't know, the purity or the sincerity of just helping these young people, now it became about, oh yeah, like, I want to impress all these people or these businesses in the community. And it was really silly. Like, it was really sad. And what I later realized is that expectation actually became a burden. And I hated it. I hated it, because now I was trying to, keep up with this expectation. Here's this great guy doing this great stuff. So, stay high, look great in public. But I hated it, man. Like, it was so weighing. It was so heavy. And so I realized then that, man, you can't change, for anyone, and you can't change the sincerity of what you're doing. You can't fall into that performance trap that we all fall into. Performance Christianity is pretty big. Because I've been there, I know all about it. So it's quite easy to recognize. So in this time of, increasing capacity or recognition, I've realized even more, I got to go private even more. And so that's that place of intimacy. I mean, one of the scriptures that have always, been strong in my life is Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 23. And he says, let not the wise man boast in his wisdom, nor the strong man in his strength, nor the rich man in his riches. But if any man should boast, let him boast in this one thing, that he knows me. And so the greatest success in all life is not your riches, it's not your strength, it's not your wisdom, but it's knowing him. It's really knowing him, not just knowing about him, but knowing him. We see Jesus talk to the Pharisees. He said, John chapter 5, verse 39, you search the scriptures day and night because you think in them you have eternal life, yet you fail to realize that they point to me, and yet you refuse to come to me. And so these people who knew the scriptures more than anybody completely missed the Son of God when he was in their midst. So it's not enough just to know the scriptures. It's not enough just to know about
that. Yeah, like that's so good. Like, so let's stay here for a bit. I mean, we just keep flowing, right? So why is that? Why is it when some people quote scriptures or some people quote the Bible or mention Jesus, everything shifts? And then when some people quote stuff, say stuff, nothing happens. What are your thoughts on that?
I remember hearing the story, and you've probably heard it as well. I'll paraphrase it a bit, but this young guy gets up to speak, and they're sharing, Psalms 23, and he's really eloquent, he's clear, he just nails it. The Lord is my shepherd, really well presented, nails it, and the whole crowd is just giving him applause. Then this old guy gets up, he's got this rickety old Bible, and he just sits there, he comes up to the platform, and then he says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The whole room is silent. And they're in tears. The old man takes a seat. The young man looks at him. He says, how come when I share, everybody applauds, but when you share, everybody is crying? And he says to him, young man, you know that verse about the shepherd, but I know the shepherd. And so for me, it always comes back to that place of intimacy. It's really about knowing him. Like, do you really know him? Do we really know him? And this is why performance Christianity is such a disease, because it becomes about our outer external. I mean, we can go really far and wide here, and we can get a bit firm and whatnot, but it's such a disease because it pulls us into this trap now. It's about how we can present ourselves, and now we start to manufacture our Christianity. Because we can manufacture our Christianity. We can manufacture our social media profile to give off any perception that we like. And I know that because I've been there. There were times when I would pray for the sick, not solely because I love them, but because I just wanted another testimony that I could then share to impress you so that you can pat me on the back and make me feel great. So I'm just being honest. I've been there. I know exactly what it is. But what you cannot manufacture is intimacy with the Father and the fruit that comes from that. And so to answer your question, I believe that it's a difference between those who genuinely spend time with him and actually have that sincerity, that purity of heart. And I'm sure most people do, like we all did. Even when I was in that phase of performance Christianity, I still had a sincerity of heart. It was just taken over by the externals because the external validation is so much easier to get. There's an instant response. But when you're time alone with the Father, there's no real instant response. Rather it's just seeds going deep, but you don't see any fruit yet. And so sometimes it's easy just to go out and get validation from someone because you get it instantly. But time alone with the Father, it takes time as well. And so it's being disciplined in the small things and knowing that sometimes the seeds you sow today won't show up until another 18 months. Having that long vision in mind. You don't plant an apple tree today and you expect apples tomorrow. No, there's time and season for things. And so it's just having that discipline, that intentionality and trusting the process that, God, whatever, you're learning now, God, and whatever God's birthing now in you and your heart will soon manifest and come forth, but it's just staying the course really and holding to that. So.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
So what does being with the Father look like to Lee?
For me, it's part of that morning routine, like I said. So I dedicate at least an hour where I'm just here. So this is my war room or my rest room, my hospital, whatever you like to call it. Yeah, my sanctuary. So this is where I spend a lot of the time. And all I'll bring is my Bible, my journal, some water, and worship. And so I come in here, I pop in worship, and then I'll just let it flow. And so there'll be times where I'm just hearing from the Father and I'm just writing. Or there'll be times where I'm just journaling, just reflecting, what am I learning? What are things that are in my heart? What am I seeing? Or sometimes I'm just in worship. Like I'll just spend the whole time just worshiping, like I'm just adoring him, just loving him. Sometimes I'm just chewing on the word, like I'm just really focused on something. And then sometimes I'm just on the floor crying. It's different from time to time. It's very fluid and it's flowing with the Spirit. but I'm intentional about it. And so I think what time alone with the Father firstly looks like intentionality, being intentional, because few things in life, especially the important things, happen by accident. Instead, they require deliberateness, intentionality, and prioritization. And so I do that, just like any other meeting, I schedule my time with him. Now, some people might think that's legalistic or religious. It's not. It's pure intentionality. Just like I do anything, it's intentional. And so by having that in place and by having routine and structure and having intentional time there, as long as I know that I'm having that time alone with him, whatever it looks like in that moment, that's my time with him. And then I just trust that whatever happens in that time as well, God's doing something in me. He's working in me. He's sowing things in me that I may not recognize in the moment, but then later things will come forth and start to sprout. So that's what it looks like for me. It's just real simple. Like, I'm a simple guy. I wish I had these like outer body go to heaven experiences that I have, because man, they sound awesome. Like, I want that, but I don't have that, and I don't necessarily always feel things. In fact, I rarely feel, things. People feel like, I feel the Holy Spirit, or they get goosebumps or hot. I rarely feel things. I have a lot, but I rarely do. And so I guess that's a difference for me, that I've liked that, because it's helped me to stay in that place of faith, not feeling, like, oh, I don't feel the Holy Spirit today, so I'm not hearing. I don't get caught in that, you know what I mean? Because I just trust and know that he's good to me. He loves me. And I know that he's here with me. And this time with him, he knows it. That's me. I want intimacy with him. I want to be with him. And we know that you don't get pregnant just by holding hands. You've got to get intimate, And so things in God will birth, and you become pregnant with the things of God by being in that place. So that's what it looks like for me, man.
Come on, man. Getting hyped up over here. So, hey, guys, I want to say something here. When somebody comes on and starts sharing with their heart open, like Lee is doing right now, you can feel it, you can sense it, you know something else is happening. There is an impartation. Like, there are times where I've heard someone share something like this, and it has directly translated into my life. So if you're struggling with that kind of discipline thing and waking up thing, there is something you can receive here. Instructors can give you information, but fathers give you impartation, and he carries the heart of the Father, and there is impartation happening here for you, where suddenly tomorrow you might find like you want to wake up and have intentional time with Papa, So I'm just getting you conscious of receiving that, because this is a big deal, man. Bro, so let's go back to your story. Like, I want to know, how did you come to the Lord? Were you in a Christian house? What was the deal? What was your childhood like, 0 to 20 years old?
Yeah, awesome question, man. So my dad, Samoan family, and as you know, in Samoan culture, faith is very much embedded in that. And I've got to be careful how I say it. I don't want to be too mean, but my personal experience anyway in it is that it was of the religious type, if I could say that. It wasn't necessarily a relationship. It was just very much, well, this is who we are, this is what we do, and it was just routine. And so as a young kid, we attended local church here in Porirua. In fact, I see Melisha is on here. Hey, Melisha, good to see you, girlfriend. So she went to the same church, E Whakasa Porirua, represent. And so we went along when I was younger, and it was, our parents would just drop us off and then leave us. So I guess that was for them to go have their time, and then we were forced to go and, be here. And to be honest, like as a kid, I didn't enjoy it. Number of reasons. One half was just the language barrier. Like we just we struggled to understand a whole lot of it, because my parents didn't speak Samoan to us at home, so that was a big thing. But also, I've got to be careful how I say this, and I'm not being mean to to anyone there, but we used to get smacked a lot at church. I remember one time I dropped my my offering on the ground in the middle of prayer, and it made a loud bang. And then all I remember is just a big slap on the back of my head. And I remember being so sad, so angry, like, who are you? But in Samoan culture, everyone's your auntie, so it's all good, like that's auntie. So you get over it, but it didn't give me a very nice picture of what the Father is like and what God is like. And so growing up, I had this awareness, and I'm grateful for that time. Don't get me wrong, because there were a lot of seeds sown there. So I'm grateful for it. And then it wasn't until the age of 20 is where I had my kind of encounter. So as a teen, things got really difficult for us as a family, and that's a whole other 9-hour conversation, so we won't go there. But things got really difficult for us as a family. And long story short is that I got to a really tough breaking point where depression, and I attempted to take my life because things were just too much, too heavy, too hard. And at the time, the girl I was dating, her mum invited me to go along to what they called a Holy Spirit conference. And because she was my girlfriend's mum at the time and I want to get in the good books, I said, yeah, I'm in, sign me up. Anyway, she goes, oh, cool. Well, it's on a Saturday and it starts at 10 in the morning and it goes till 10 at night. And I remember thinking, like, what have I gotten myself into? Because Saturday was the day of the boys. You know, we go rugby, then we go club room, then we go to the nightclub. You know, that was our Saturday routine there. And then she wanted me to go for 12 hours. I'm like, girlfriend, I haven't been to church in like 12 years and you want me to come for 12 hours? Like, what the heck is going on here? So anyway, we go up there and it's this little Anglican church in Waikanai. And as soon as we get out the door, there's just all old people. I'm the youngest guy there and I'm thinking, none of these guys are going to relate to me. And if they can hear me, because I'm thinking, oh, they're all deaf and they got canes and wheelchairs. So, oh man, for me, that was strike three. You know, Saturday, 12 hours, old people, I'm done. Like, I'm out. And so I'm just prepared for, okay, I've just got to fight this thing out for 12 hours, get in the good books, and then, yeah, I'm away. Anyway, the service was split up into 3 parts. So there was a morning service, break, afternoon service, dinner, and then an evening service. After that first service, I got really hot. And they started a time of prayer and worship and ministry time. And so the guy preaching, he said, all right, ministry team, I want you guys to go at the back. You can start praying. We're going to send people out for you guys to pray for. And as I'm standing there, I looked at my shirt. I could see my heart beating through my top. And it was intense, man. Like it's the kind of that feeling, you know, when you feel like you've forgotten something, but you don't know what, like it's just a real agitation. It was that kind of feeling. And so I just remember thinking, man, if I go to the back and if they pray for me, it might help me just to calm down and feel better. So I thought I was just having, you know, like a breakdown because of everything that had gone on in our life as a family. And so I went to the back and there was 2 little old ladies there. And like, I'm not a rude guy. And they said to me, you know, what can we pray for you, darling? And I said, look, just hurry up and pray for me. And so I stood there and these 2 little old ladies, they placed their hands on my shoulders next to me side by side. And then they just prayed for me. While they were praying for me, my knees started to get weak. And I felt like I just wanted to sit down. Like it was just, oh my goodness, I felt really weak. And then I had a flashback to Benny Hinn. So I remember as a kid when I used to wake up to watch cartoons, Benny Hinn was annoying because he was on when I want to watch cartoons. And so I had to wait for Benny Hinn to finish. Then I watched the cartoons. Anyway, I had a flashback and I had a flashback to Benny Hinn who would pray for people and they'll fall over. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to make me fall over. And so in my mind, I'm saying, who do you think you are? Why don't you try and knock me over? Who do you think you are? Why don't you try and knock me over? And I went to say it a 3rd time, who do you think you are? Why don't you? And then everything was white. And I remember trying to scream, get me out of here, but I couldn't talk. And then it was a sound of wind just blowing, just through my ears, and the feeling of electricity just pulsing, just through my body. And I was in this place for a solid 20, 30 seconds. I was trying to scream. I couldn't talk. Everywhere I looked, there was just bright light. And I tried to squint my eyes as hard as I can not to look. Anyway, a solid 20, 30 seconds, I was in this space, and then it just went. I fell to the ground, so he did knock me over. And I was so embarrassed because I'm the youngest, fittest, strongest guy there. And here's these 2 little old ladies. They had to carry me to go and sit down. I felt like Oompa Loompas taking chocolate to the river or something. It was so embarrassing, man. And so anyway, I'm sitting down there and I remember thinking, what the heck just happened? Because it was so abnormal. It was so abnormal to anything that I've experienced in life. You know, people say, oh, I would love this kind of experience, this kind of encounter. But to be honest, when you have it, it's hard to deal with, at least for me. Because it's so abnormal and it's not as easy as people would think. You know, give me a sign, yeah, I believe, but I struggled. And so in this moment, I'm sitting there, what just happened? And then all of a sudden, I heard these voices behind my head, and those voices saying things like, who do you think you are? You're a nobody. You're unworthy. Why would God waste his time on you? And I remember getting so scared, man, because I'd never experienced anything like this. I literally thought I was having a mental breakdown. Anyway, the second service started, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just saying, God, if that's you, please tell me. If that's you, please tell me. I need to know. 45 minutes later, I heard this other whisper from behind my head. It was a different voice, and it said, yes, it was I. And I was like, oh my goodness, this just can't be happening because it was so abnormal. For me, I was like, I need another sign. You know, like some of you were like, what the heck, man, just believe. But I needed another sign. And so
I get it.
At the end of the service, I walked up to the minister who's preaching. I said, hey, mate, look, this, and this happened. You tell me what that was. And without hesitation, he said, you've just had a visitation from God. And so there were 3 reasons for why I didn't want to be there. Saturday, 12 hours, old people. God gave me 3 different signs for why it was him. And since that moment, never been the same. In fact, that entire night, I didn't tell anyone because I thought no one's going to believe me. And I didn't tell the family that I came with, even when I got home and I had a little sleep out. I didn't even bother to see the family or tell them because no one's going to believe me. Next morning, I wake up June 1st, 2008. I remember sitting up in my bed, looking at my room, and I'd never seen the sky so blue. I'd never seen hills and trees so green, and even the birds, the insects, the cicadas, everything sounded alive, everything looked alive. And for the first time in years, I felt alive inside. It's the most awesome feeling, man. I feel like I'm going to cry, like just explaining about it.
That is 1 week before it happened to me.
Brothers.
June 8th, 2008. That
I beat you,
to me.
I beat you.
It's insane. And I get it. Like, you know, when you see a sign and then you're like, oh, like, and it's a crazy sign, but you're like, I want another one. You know, I want another one. And so I had that too. There were a few signs. I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, because I was drunk and I get touched by the power of God. I become sober and they were still not enough. You know, I'm like, oh, give me another sign.
I feel you, man.
Wow, man. So how old are you at that point?
20.
20. Okay. So this crazy thing happens and now you're like, no one's going to believe me. What did you do over the next week, month? What was your next step?
That next day, June 31st.
Oh, and sorry, bro. Sorry. What was the place? Because when you said the name of that place, it kind of cut off.
Yeah, it was an Anglican church in Waikanai. I can't remember the name. Small little humble church with old people. I love old people, by the way. Like honestly, and that's a mean thing to say. Sorry. Hope you understand what I mean. That was my attitude then. But I love the maturity. Anyway,
they get it.
That day, June 1st, 2008, I just struggled the whole day. Like I struggled to reconcile a lot of things, but at the same time, I was so overwhelmed because it was an instant change for me. In fact, I remember driving that day and the radio was on because I used to always listen to the radio. And I remember listening to the radio and I remember saying, what a bunch of nonsense. I don't know why I said that for, but it was just that my change of perspective was really instant. And so I switched off the radio. And as far as I understand, I've not listened to the radio since, you know, the news and whatnot, the media. So my change was real instant. And so that whole day, I struggled with it, but at the same time, really overwhelmed. And I was in a bit of tension, conflict, because I know I wanted to tell my family, but would they believe me? I don't think they would. Anyway, I ended up telling my whole family that night. And so it's quite amazing how it happened because my mum and dad were separated, divorced, sorry. My sister and her partner at the time, they were living elsewhere, but it just happened that night. Everybody happened to be home or come over home to visit. And my dad could see I was really agitated because I was sitting in the corner just, you know, scratching my legs and not sure how to go about it. And then he said to me, son, are you okay? And then I pretty much shared this, you know, story I shared with you guys. I was the first believer in my family. Wow. And over the next 2 months, my entire family made a decision for Christ. So I'm the oldest of 7, big family.
Wow.
But all my family made a decision for Christ then. And over the next few months, I shared the story of my best friends. And then within 3-4 months, I was being invited to speak at friends' home groups or even some of their churches and youth groups. And so what started off as just this genuine, like, I just love Jesus. Oh my goodness, I want to tell the world. Then all of a sudden I was speaking in all these different places. And by the way, I wasn't part of any church, you know, then, you know, the first 6 months of my faith, I wasn't part of any church. Yeah, I was seeing great things happen. I saw my family come to faith. I was sharing my faith with my friends. I was talking to people on the street. I was being invited to speak at different churches or home groups. I saw amazing things take place. And it was just because of that sincerity, just being alone. And I just want to know you. That's it. All I wanted to do was know him. I just wanted to know him.
Wow.
And then here we are. I've never turned back. You know, I've never had the urge. I've never had, you know, the thoughts. And I hear some people have that. I don't understand it, but at the same time, I don't judge it because, yeah, for whatever reason, my coming to faith wasn't progressive. It was just instant. And I'm grateful for it. I'm so grateful for it. And our whole family, our whole life is totally flipped. Like the healing that's taken place. Only Jesus.
That's awesome, man. So all of this is going on. You're all in. You're pursuing him. Let's talk a little bit about you're here now, but you're like, it looks like or it feels like you're coming out of a cycle or a season into a new one, a wider one, a more impactful one. And, you know, you talked about these private battles. You talked about the training. I'm very big on life's training. So I know you've been through training, you know, and so without needing to go too deep into like names or anything like that, can we touch on some of the things that you can look back and go, man, God was preparing me there because when it happened, it kind of crushed me, or I didn't respond like the Father, or something like that, you know?
Yeah, this is a big one. And this I see so rampant, especially in New Zealand, is the hurt, church hurt, what takes place there. So those first 6 months, I wasn't part of any church, but I was having this amazing growth, and I just wanted to know Jesus. And then after that, I joined a local church here. Loved it, just loved what I was learning, was finally in a community with people who I could talk and share and understand and just grow with. A couple of years, maybe 2 years into that, just experienced a really unfortunate experience, church hurt, and from people that you love, you do life with, you shared your heart with, and then all of a sudden, kind of turn their back and say not nice things about you. And I was guilty of it too, because I think I developed a little bit of arrogance. No, I don't think, I know I did. I developed a bit of arrogance because I was experiencing this growth and other people were seeing it and they were amazed, like, who's this guy? He's been in the faith, 6 months, and wow, look at what's going on. And I developed a bit of arrogance from that. And so part of the church hurt was my fault as well. But I just remember feeling so crushed. How can people, Christians, how can you talk like that? How can you say that? How can you do that? And if I'm being honest, the most judgment, hatred, and criticism I've ever received in my life has come from Christians. And that's hard to deal with, and I'm not being mean by saying that, but that's been the reality of my experience so far. And so I went through this journey of, there were 7 stages. I've been able to knuckle it down over the years, and so I'll share a little bit about it. But there were 7 phases that I went through. The first one was extreme hurt. I was so hurt. I remember just being so sad, so broken, like, oh my goodness, I was treated this way. So that was the first stage, hurt. After that was angry. I cannot tell you how angry I was. And I would think some not nice things about people, man, about pastors, about leaders. And I would think about doing these things to them, that would hurt them, blah, blah, just ugly. But that was one of the phases. I was really angry. After that was bitterness. Bitterness is probably the most dangerous one in them, I would say, because bitterness, not only are you have these resentful, ugly feelings for people, but then you justify it and then you end up going down these slippery slopes that are not good. So I think for a little bit, I got wayward on some doctrines or some idea, some theology. Like theologically, I got a little bit wayward because I was trying to escape the hurt. And it was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to church. Like now I was like anti-church, I hate pastors, and they're all wrong, and you guys are wrong, and blah, blah, blah. But that was really bad phase, bitterness. After that was acceptance. So it's accepting that, okay, this happened. This took place. Stop trying to run from it. Accept it, embrace it. Now what are you going to do? So that was really, really tough, really hard. After that, the phase was healing. So I went through this place of healing. And in that place of healing is where God could meet me. And now he could touch the things in the areas of my heart, which I had closed off to him, through bitterness, through anger. Because I accepted it, I was almost opening up myself and saying, okay, Jesus, I need you to deal with this and to help me. So that was the 5th one, healing. After that was forgiveness. And I'm not just talking about token, oh yeah, I forgive them, but it was from my heart, like I forgive these people. In fact, I have love for these people. And I would do things like, I know you're not supposed to let your left hand know what your right hand does, but I would take money and go put it in their letterboxes. And they don't never know, and they still will never know. Well, they might know now if they see this, but that was the depth of forgiveness I had, where I genuinely forgive these people and I wanted the best for them. The 7th phase was reconciliation. And so I reached out to these different Christians, these different leaders, pastors, and I said, can I meet with you? And when we sat down, all that meeting was about me asking them forgiveness. I didn't ask for forgiveness. And I'm sure there are many things I could have asked them, but it was about me removing any dirt that I threw on them. And it was me just blessing them and releasing them of anything that might be held there from mine as well. And I just wanted to love them. And that took me 7 years to arrive to. That was a 7-year journey. 7 different phases, a 7-year journey. But I cannot tell you how powerful that was, because what it taught me not just to understand and know about what it feels like to be an outcast, because that's what I felt like. I felt like I was an outcast because I had a faith. I loved Jesus, but I wasn't accepted in the local church. And so I felt like a guy who was out of place. I felt like an outcast. But in that, Jesus showed me his love for the outcasts, for those who have been hurt, who have been burdened, who have been upset. And so I learned a facet and understood a facet of God that I didn't know before. And what's really interesting is that I've now been able to embody that message. And surprisingly, a lot of the impact I have today is amongst those people who've been hurt by the church. And so I'm able to take Jesus to them to embody it, not just from a book or a theological space, but I live this, I understand it. And I can meet with them at that place and help them to navigate those various stages as well. And it's been so powerful. It's been so beautiful. And I think it's one of those topics that is not taught enough. I remember that even when I was going through those phases and I was trying to explain it, I was not understood, and people would still just throw me off and, oh, he's just hurt, like he's just angry. Yeah, I was hurt and angry, but I didn't need you to kick me while I was down. I needed somebody to just help, just to be there, not just kind of shun you. And so I've learned this whole space or side of Christianity at the moment that I think we need to do a lot of work here. We need to really look at ourselves a bit more and really be there for people, all kinds. Don't judge, don't look. Somebody may not be at church at the moment. Don't judge where they're at. Always believe for the best of them. Always love them. Always show them, embody that message of love, and have faith. That's what we need at the moment. So it's a valuable topic for me. But that taught me, that lesson, that difficulty taught me so many things. Taught me about resilience as well. It taught me a lot about intimacy, because Jesus was the only person I had. People didn't understand me. People didn't want to understand me. People didn't get around me. So all I had was Jesus. And so in that, I went through some of the most amazing growth ever. I can say that difficult time was actually where I probably experienced the most growth that I've ever experienced. And it came from that hardship. Jesus says that unless a seed is first put in the ground and buried, it cannot produce fruit. And so sometimes we've got to go through the death, die to self. You've got to die to live. You've got to give to gain. You've got to go through that process. And it's so incredibly hard, but I would never take it back. I love it, and I'm grateful for it. And God has been good to me, and he's taken me through it. He's shown me his grace, his wisdom, his love, his care, his faithfulness, his loyalty. I'm just grateful, man. And it's what it taught me.
Wow, man. Yeah. Well, I mean, we got similar stories, but if you're listening, guys, this is if you're in a tough spot, take courage from this. This is the becoming. This is you becoming like your Father in heaven, not just knowing about him, but you are becoming, like Lee just said, we become it. We become love. We don't do love. We become honor. We don't do honor. We don't act honorable. We become honor. So that's massive. And when you say in your early days, you're sharing and preaching all that kind of stuff, I think one of our problems is that discipleship is horribly kind of misunderstood, And if you look at Paul's letter to Timothy, and he's like, hey, don't put a young man in these places because it's going to start to fan the flame too soon, and it's going to puff him up and take him to, just having simple discipleship and people that want to walk with you can save us so much pain. And the reason I say this is God used the story, and now Lee, like a diamond, has been chipped away and is formed, but he's one of the strong that would survive, but there are many that don't. And when we think about kingdom culture, if we're a family, because the kingdom is family by nature, governmental in structure. So if we're a family, then you're only as strong as your weakest member. We're not setting up our family for success. So we've seen the occasional person rise from the ashes, if you want to say, because the strong survive, but you're as a family, we're only as good as our weakest member, and we're not creating a good culture, if I think about the All Blacks, you could get an average rugby player and he comes into that culture and he'll start to excel at a level that he wouldn't anywhere else. The kingdom culture should be a bit like that, right? What are your thoughts on some of what I'm saying?
Oh, man, you're my brother. Absolutely, man. It's so true. Yeah, discipleship, all of that. And all of what you said, you pretty much just said what I was going to say, but you said it.
Hey guys, I just want to tell you about our Royal Hybrids group coaching program. Over a year ago, the Lord started speaking to me about a group of people, a tribe that would only get their value, their affirmation, that would only get their identity from who they are in God and nothing else. And from that place, they were going to do great things on the earth. In the last year, we have seen a whole bunch of people jump into our program, solidify themselves in their identity with God, and from that place start to engage their purpose. Fuse Life talks about the 6 trees: your spirit, your soul, your body, and then your relationships, your finances, and your purpose. We have seen a whole bunch of people come through this, get solidified in who they are, and then begin their own projects, whether it's a teen mums project, whether it's a coaching, counseling business, or a painting business, publishing your children's book, publishing a puzzle book. We have seen people do all of these kind of things, and we just know that this is just the beginning. So you want to go to www.fusebornformore.com/Royal Hybrid, or just click the link in the caption and make sure to check out what we are doing. We would love to have you as part of our tribe. Now, back to the podcast.
So let's touch on some of this. So we've seen now, 2008, you were 13 years in this. And some people might see 13 years and say, oh, that's not long. But 13 years when you're going all in is a long time. A lot happens in 13 years. So in your opinion, what do you think has stopped people from coming out the other side? Like, there are a lot of people gone through what you've gone through, what I've gone through. What do you think stops them and blocks them from coming into the fullness?
I'm sure there are many, many different answers to that. And, some that I've observed is maybe that, the seed wasn't sown as deeply as, we thought it was, and, sprouted quickly, and then the rocks, kind of cut it out and whatnot. I think I mentioned before, performance Christianity is such a disease, and that, part of that is because there's a lack of discipleship. We're not teaching people about simple things like intimacy. How do you really develop that place? And so because there's a lack of depth there, sometimes it's easier for people to, get chopped. But a lot of it is family, what you said as well. I think we could grow a lot in that space as what it is to be family, not just an army. Yeah, we're an army and we war for God, but at the same time we're family, and that's a huge, area where we've got to learn. Like, I think my process may have been easier if people just treated me more like a brother, rather than just an attendee at a church, but like a brother, and actually really loved me and actually got alongside me, and maybe even just listened to me sometimes. I didn't necessarily want people to give me advice. I just wanted to be heard, especially in that place of bitterness or anger. Like, it would have just helped if people heard, because then they would have helped me to understand. So that's part of family as well. I think we've got to grow in a lot in that place of love and what that looks like. And for me, that always comes back to your personal development. Like I said, intimacy, everything comes back to there. Like, if you're growing in that place of intimacy, you're developing there, you're going to be so much more effective for moments like this. And you'll see when people are in these spaces, you'll know how to help people when they're in these spaces. And so it's such a big one. But I think, lack of depth, lack of discipleship, lack of family. And then it's all other things we know, just distractions of the world, or things entice us more than whatnot. So, yeah.
It's intriguing to me that when God pulls us on this journey, it's almost like the first phase, he woos us out, out of the world into the kingdom, just like kind of the Israelites leave Egypt, and it's not a conscious thing, like it's an invitation. But then the second part to go into the promised land is a conscious death, crossing Jordan. And Jordan means death. It's this conscious, voluntary, like, man, these guys did this to me, but still I choose to, this happened to me, but I choose, like, this voluntary death. Can you talk to that a little bit? Were there some times where you're just like, man, I don't want to die to this thing, or I don't want to contact that person, or,
Yeah, for sure, man. I probably still have it at times, even little things like, posting up, some of these prophetic words and stuff, like the fear you battle with, it's so real. But that's where courage comes in, right? Be strong and courageous. Haven't I commanded you to be courageous? And courage is in the absence of fear, but it's the willingness to act despite the fear. So it's feeling the fear, but acting anyway. And one thing I always saying to myself is that courage is being scared to death, but still saying, bring it. So I'll take you on, even though I'm scared to heck, but I'll take you on. I'll step up. And so that's what a lot of it looks like, is that we don't always know what's going to happen. We're not always going to know how it's going to turn out, but we know the one who holds all that. And that's where, again, it comes back to intimacy. In the place of intimacy, you know him more, so you trust him more. And so now you may not always know the future outcome, but you know the one who holds the future. And so then you learn to trust his heart, even when you cannot trace his hand. And so that's where a lot of my confidence has come from, to step in the place of fear, is understanding, okay, fear is a spirit, 2 Timothy 1:7, and it's a spirit that God has not given us. And so it's here, it's trying to push me, but it's up to me to resist the devil and he will flee. So it's up to me to resist. I submit to God, I resist the devil, and then I push forward. And what you realize is that sometimes that fear, or whatever it is just, you've probably heard the acronym, false evidence appearing real. And you realize that once you cross that Jordan River, you cross that barrier, you realize actually it wasn't as terrible as my imagination thought up. It wasn't as ugly as the fear made it out to be. If anything, it's the exact opposite. And so courage is a big one. I think courage has been the biggest one for me anyway, in terms of being willing to die to self. Know who he is, know that he's good. He's always got your best intentions at heart. You can always trust his heart, even when you cannot trace his hand. And even when the future outcome isn't always sure, you can always trust the one who holds the future.
Come on, man. That's so good, because some of you probably think that, putting out words that he has no fear and that he doesn't have to deal with stuff. So let's touch on this a little bit. Would you say you're a prophet? Did someone come and be like, hey, there is this function or a role of a prophet? And what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I've never considered myself a prophet. And even at the moment, I don't know if I am. Some people have said it. I've just never never really associated myself with that. I've just seen myself as somebody, I love Jesus. I talk to him, he talks to me, so I just share what he says. And maybe that's overly simple, and maybe I'm, I've got to grow in this area as well. Like I don't claim to be any seasoned, guy in this. I'm still very much growing in it. So I've never really considered it, but I've become more, I want to be more faithful with it, especially in the last year. When things started to take place here in New Zealand and whatnot, that really opened my eyes, because I realized I was quite asleep, so I realized, man, I want to hear, what is the Father saying in this hour, and how can I play my part in this? So yeah, I've just always considered myself as, I'm just a son, and I know that he's given me authority, he's given me his spirit, he's given me his word, he's given me his promises. This is what he said I can do with him. It's a co-mission, so it's a partnership with him. And I'm just trying to be faithful with that. And so if that's part of the role of a prophet, man, I receive it, and I want to be faithful to that, and I will do what I need to do to grow in that. And so, yeah, like I'm still very much growing in this. I'm definitely no expert season, but I want to learn. I want to grow. And so,
wow.
Yeah.
Man, we're so similar. And so I remember meeting an apostle, like he's in that place in America, and he started to call that out for me, like as a function and a role. But I was just like, I'm just happy being a son, exactly like what you're saying. I just hear what God's saying. But then the Lord started to really speak to me about function and role. And I think that's one of my issues. I've seen a lot of people take it as a title, but really it's a function and a role, not a title, And you can't just title somebody into function. You're trained into function, you're bred into function. You don't title someone into function. So it was really, I had a lot of dealing for me. So when you put out your first word, so I've seen 3 now. I don't know if you did more than that, but there was one on the fear because of the pandemic, the fear in the church, I think it was. And then you talk about unity and how unites is more powerful than divides, something like that. And then you did 2 more. Did you do any other words before that, or?
No real prophetic words like that. But yeah, just at least the last probably 18 months, actually, I've been quite vocal. I put up videos last year around, how do we vote as a Christian? Just trying to encourage the church to, vote on principle, not the person, and look for values, and where's righteousness in this, and pursue righteousness, and by righteousness, God exalts the nation. So I've tried to talk about it a lot over the last 18 months. And yeah, a lot of people heard and, heeded the word. A lot of people gave me flack, but now later, a lot of people are coming back and saying, sorry. So
what do you mean by that? What do you mean by they gave you flack and now they're coming back?
Well, a lot of people would call me a conspiracy theorist on things. Some people would say, you're wrong about certain things, or, what God might show me in terms of, our nation and like the government, for example. What we're seeing now, I was talking about, over a year ago, and not in like an angry, like mean way, but just saying, guys, be aware, turn to the Father in this moment, ask him for your directives, play your part in this, because I think we're in for a rocky road. Well, here we are. And so I think a lot of people, and this is quite funny what I've noticed in Christianity. And yeah, again, I got to be careful how I say this, but I like that we're always trying to edify and encourage, but it almost seems like there is a part of Christianity which is quite apathetic. We give into a lot of apathy, and then we try to cover it with, we just tell good stuff, hey, look, this is the vision for 2020, 2021, we're going to be victorious and abundance. And I literally heard some churches say that. Well, you look at what's kind of going on, it's not necessarily that, you know what I mean? So it's like, are we actually hearing from the Father to say what's going on? Or are we just kind of trying to say things that, we want to encourage, and we want to, we always want to be positive. We want to be hopeful as well, but be positive and hopeful from the voice of the Father, at least from the position of him. And so, yeah, it's just a lot of the flack came from that type of space where don't say mean things or don't say negative things, just speak positive, which is good. But it wasn't helpful, if I can say it that way.
Mm-hmm. So you put these words out, and obviously you're not expecting, a few thousand people tens of thousands of people to listen to this word and stuff. And now it goes out there, and people are, they must have messaged you, all kinds of stuff. Can you touch on some of the good and maybe some of the ugly and what's happened here?
The process of it and just what the experience of it?
The whole thing, the experience, and now how you view this going forward. You're obviously not just going to stop now and leave, but.
Cool. That's cool. Great question, man. Majority of the feedback has been so encouraging. Very, very awesome. In fact, a lot of people have been come back with confirmation. 2 people had the exact same dream on August 22nd. The exact same dream I had, and I shared in the first video I put out. 2 other people that I don't even know, complete strangers, they had the exact same dream. One of them was a Christian. One of them wasn't. One of them is, I think she's more in like, she's just more spiritual, I guess. Māori, I think she comes from a Māori background. So anyway, they got similar or the exact same dreams as I. Other people have had the exact same words. Some people had dreams that are pretty much the same thing as well. So lots of confirmation and lots of people saying, man, I had the same thing, but I thought that, I wasn't hearing wrong, or I thought that I was just being negative, but thank you for the clarification. So majority of it has been very encouraging. I have had several not nice messages, and I've been accused of some things that are just nowhere even near anything that I've even said. One particular person said, how do you prophesy to murder Jacinda in November? I was like, what? How do people come to these, conclusions, these ideas? Like, it's so far away from anything I've ever said. And so that's been really interesting to deal with. And these are Christians too. Well, at least they say, we're God-loving, fearing Christians, and you want to murder someone in November. I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. This is fascinating. So had some of that and some, just not nice, mean things, and they still sting, to be honest. Like I'm not this, brave kind of immune guy that you can say things doesn't affect me. It gets to me, but I've just been able to just endure through it and find comfort in the Father through that. So majority of it's been good. You do have the odd not nice, and then it's open doors like this. So it's just opportunity where, because I think what a lot of the nation I'm finding, especially the church, is that they're starved of hope, or they're starved of just the goodness of God. They're starved of that Father heart. And so I think what, you mentioned at the start, that a lot of what that word brought was hope. And I'm grateful to hear that, because it's always been the intent. You want to bring hope. You want to bring, positivity, but in Him, in His promises. And so that's what it's done a lot as well. And that's opened a few doors. And then there's been other more seasoned, prophetic individuals who've offered to, take me under their wing and mentor me further in certain things. So I'm really grateful for that. So majority of it overall, man, it's been really good.
Wow. Hey, if you're watching this, so we talk a lot about purpose, and you're watching what's going on. I know you're watching this, but if you're watching the journey, right, that Lee's talking about, and now he's coming into a deeper part of his assignment. This is one of the things we talk about, is that you will be misunderstood. And so here he is putting something out there and trying to make it as clear and concise as possible. But there's only so far you're going to go with this English language. Like, being misunderstood is a prereq as a son of God. Like, Jesus was misunderstood horribly. And so a lot of people who care about the opinions of others are not willing to cross that barrier, to step over that thing, being misunderstood. And so that's why I asked this question, because I know he's saying something with a heart of something, but social media, people are going to receive it with their heart of something. And it's really, really intriguing. So just lastly on this stuff, like, it blows my mind that God's opening this up for you. I'm so pumped that you carry hope. But, we talked about at the beginning how some people just they have a weight behind their words, because the intimacy, they have a waiting on the Lord. So it has weight in their words. But there are people that don't have that, So this hope thing, a lot of people give hope, but they can't give what they don't have. And so they're trying to speak hope that it manifests, instead of like, I have it, so I can give it, So I can watch that happening in your life. I'm watching it, and it's amazing. And so I guess going now into In the End, We Win, like the title of this thing, this was one of the titles you gave. There'll be people that are like, what are you on? Like, the tribulation's here and the beast is rising and it's over. Like, we're finished. Like, this is doomed. Jesus must come and da-da-da. What are your thoughts on all of this? Let me spar with you a little bit on here. What do you mean we win?
Awesome, man. Well, there's 2 parts to it. The first one is, the different experiences I've had, I've won. When I went through the church hurt, I won. When I went through the loss of, in terms of family, we won. And so what I'm saying is that no matter the situation you're in, because of God's goodness and His grace and your trust in Him, you'll always find victory. We're victorious in Christ, and we're not trying to get victory. We've already won the victory. We're just implementing it, or we're just having to fight a few battles along the way. But we walk from victory, not towards victory, at least in my understanding. And then it's also, everything that's going on, here now in New Zealand, it's incredibly overwhelming, and it's very difficult. I'm not unaware of that as well. And it's, what we're seeing now, and mandates kicking in, and Now there's this openly confessed and acknowledged by our Prime Minister that this is now a two-class system. Yep, it is what she said. So we're in a very difficult place. And for a lot of people, this can be very overwhelming, and which it is. And I think one of the easier, more default mindsets we can go to, and I don't blame people as well, is that we can fall straight away into that this is the end. I'm sure they probably thought like that in World War I and II as well, when Hitler was around. I'm sure that a lot of Christians thought the exact same thing, this is the end, but it wasn't. And there is a whole other discussion and topic around, and I'm seeing a lot of arguments around it too, which is not always helpful, because people have different perspectives on the rapture, the tribulation, and this and that, and there's different apparently there's like 4 ways I've seen so far people talking about, or 4 different views. Again, I'm a simple guy, and I think one of the traps in that is that you can elevate your understanding of something above just understanding him. And that's where the arguments and divide come in, because we argue over what we understand. We argue over our position on a certain thing, instead of just elevating him and choosing to trust him and understanding that unity is a natural fruit of just gathering around Jesus. And so we might disagree on certain doctrine and theology. My wife and I, we have disagreements all the time, but doesn't mean we're out of unity. Unity isn't dictated by agreement. It's not just merely of mind, but it's a thing of the Spirit, and we arrive there, or unity happens rather effortlessly when we arrive at truth. And so by elevating the truth, Jesus, I find that that's the more safer place for me to be in at the moment. Kind of like we said at the start, staying in your lane. I've not explored, the details of all these different views as much as maybe I should. I'm not sure. But I've felt to stay in this moment. I'm to give hope, and I'm to elevate Christ, and I'm to stay here at least for this season anyway. And so what that helps me with then is that I understand, okay, well, whichever argument or doctrine is correct here, either way, I'm with him. So whatever way it goes, I'm with him, and I'll be there, and we'll win. And so what's going on in New Zealand is quite interesting. And I'll just say this, I don't believe this is the end. I believe what we will see is a incredible turnaround in our nation. I think a lot of things, we're seeing it now, a lot of things is being exposed, not just in the government and things that's going on and these, unjust sort of cause and policies and whatnot. We're also exposing the heart of the church at the moment. This divide and everything that's taking place, it's exposing it. It's bringing all that stuff to the surface. After this phase of exposure, and this, by the way, this phase of exposure is difficult, and it's pressure, it's difficulty, and I still believe it's going to increase a little bit more, but it's necessary for us to bring that stuff to the surface. If you think of it like this, think that you're sweeping your kitchen floor, for example. When you're sweeping the kitchen floor, you don't necessarily see all the dust or dirt that's around, but once you sweep it all on a pile, well, now you've got this massive pile of dust and dirt there. And so your attention now is on the dust, dirt, or the pile of dust and dirt. And if somebody walks in, the first thing they notice is the dust and dirt. But what they haven't noticed is that you've also cleaned the kitchen. And so everything that's going on now, it can be really overwhelming, because all we see is this dust and pile of dirt. But what we need to remember as well, at the same time, there is cleaning happening. And all we're waiting for now is for the great dustpan to come in and sweep it all away. And so that's where we're at. We're in a place of exposure. In one of the words, I talked about 3 phases that I believe that we'll go through as a nation: exposure, removal, then restoration. And so in order to go through those 2 other phases, we've got to go through the exposure first. That's very difficult. But keep hope, because then we're going to go for removal, and those things can't be removed until they're first exposed. So you can't expose what you have, you can't remove what's not exposed. You've got to expose it. Then you can remove it. And then once that removal happens, then we move into a great restoration. And we're going to see some great things as a nation. I wholeheartedly believe it. Now, some people may just believe I'm out of my mind and I'm brainwashed. That's fine, but I know where I stand with this, and I'm confident in that. And I can't make you have that same confidence. I can't do anything for your position on that. But this is where I am. I'm very confident of that. And we're going to see a great restoration in our nation. We're going to see great unity in our nation, and we're going to see a great move from the body of Christ. And we're going to see the body function in a way that I don't believe we've seen function in this nation to this day. And it's going to be incredibly mind-blowing. But that's what helps me push through this as well, and why I'm so excited and why I have so much hope, because of the things that I believe the Father's showing me. And I think that's why there's possibly a lot of response that's coming from that, because it's what people instinctively, maybe by the Spirit, God's speaking to them anyway. But our minds get in the way sometimes, and we get overwhelmed by the dust pile. But remember, cleansing is happening, refining is taking place, and it's all for the better. And in the end, we will win.
Man, I love that picture, the analogy. I hope people are going to take this analogy. It makes a lot of sense. While you're looking at the dirt, make sure to enjoy the cleaner kitchen. You know, and I love what you're saying about the exposure, removal, restoration. We're so similar, man, and things that we say and stuff. But let me ask you this question: in terms of the removal, do you believe that that is part of some people's assignment, that they are part of that removal process? Like, yeah, the great dustpan is held by His hand, but it is people, maybe like you and I, that are part of the. All right, it's exposed now. We're removing now. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is where it comes back to everybody playing their part. So God obviously sees the bigger picture. He knows where to position us best. And so now it's on us to take that onus and, okay, where's my part in this? So for somebody like myself, it might be to, openly share these prophetic words, which I've never done before. But that's what I felt to do in that moment. And then what it's produced from that, okay, thank you, Father. I'm hearing you. I'm grateful for it. Yourself, you're doing things in a different way. But what you're doing is part of what God wants you to do. So He knows how to position us best, and it's being faithful in that as well, regardless of what it looks like. And I think sometimes, because there are some who are covert and then some who are overt. There are some who are, straight shooters, and there are some who are more strategic or subtle. But it all plays their part. And I think the trap is that when we think that everybody else has got to be like you, because I'm called to speak out and share these things, and then the trap that I can fall into is now I expect everybody else to, and if you don't, then you're not a man of faith. You're not a person of faith. Where's your courage at? That's wrong, man. You don't think like that. It's trusting that God knows where to position best. He's the shepherd. Allow Him to shepherd people. Allow Him to guide them wherever He's doing it, and just trust that. And so, yeah, I guess the short of your question, absolutely. We've always got a part to play in it. We've always got our own part, but it may not always be what our natural thinking or our carnal mind would expect it to be. But the way that you can find out is go back to that place of intimacy. That's the big place. That's the key thing.
Come on, man. Come on. Back to that place of intimacy. But guys, if you're listening from outside of New Zealand, there are things going on here and things going on in Australia that are quite interesting right now. And obviously some parts of Europe are getting interesting as well. But so Lee's released some prophetic words. I've put one of them in the caption. You can click on there, go watch that video. And in the comment section, there is another link to another video. So you can see 2 or 3 of his words on there, what he's saying. And there's a lot of hope in there, and there's a lot of detail in there too with the dreams, right? There's a bit of detail in there, which is quite awesome. I didn't want him to start sharing those words here because it won't do it justice. That's why he's made that video, So make sure to go watch that video to get the full picture. And yeah, let me ask you this question. Someone put in the chat here around Māori people and their part to play in this time. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Awesome. Yeah, well, that was part of one of the prophetic words that I released as well. And it says, Māori culture will be revived, sanctified, and more widely cherished. Now, I'm very ignorant of Māori culture and even like things like the treaty, not good. I'm a Kiwi, I should know a lot of this stuff, but I'm very ignorant of it. And if I can say, I think sometimes that works in my favor because what I'm hearing from the Father is not getting skewed with, my natural knowledge or, my natural knowledge is not distorting things. So sometimes I like that if I don't know a subject because I can just hear without that filter. And so at least when I hear, Māori culture, I'm thinking more like, the value set that they live by or how they might do life. So my mum's side Scottish and then my dad's side Samoan, but the way that they express certain values is very different. The way that you do family in our Samoan culture is very different from the way that we do family in Scottish culture. Samoan culture, you can just kind of turn up, go to the fridge, do what you want. Whereas maybe our Scottish side, maybe you've got to ring first and check if they're home. And then, so it's different. So when I think of, culture, I think more of that, the way that we express certain things, because I'm aware, and I've had some comments as well that, people saying, well, Māori culture, there's wrong worshipping, pagan things about that, which I understand and know as well, but that's not necessarily what I'm referring to. I'm just talking about, well, at least the way that I understood is just the way that the Māori present themselves, but also just their authority in this land as well and who they are as the people of this land. I think that's a key part in the Father's heart here. And so whatever that looks like and however that plays out, man, I wish I knew just as much as you. I want to know every detail, but that's why I'm not God. But I think it's such a special thing, and we're starting to see little things happen now. I've gotten a lot of messages from people who are kind of in that space, and they're saying, there's some huge things happening amongst the Māori people right now. And a number of people have sent prophecies regarding the Māori people as well, going back to even like the 90s. And some of the stuff looks like, man, it's lining up, right now. And so, yeah, how that comes in, the treaty, the governance side of it, I don't know. But whatever it is, Māori culture will be revived and it'll be sanctified. Yeah, it's a key part. It'll be sanctified. So whatever it is that may or may not be right or wrong, it'll be sanctified. And then they'll be more widely cherished. And so I just think their part here will be such a key role, and they'll be more widely cherished because we as a nation will be so grateful for their stand and who they are as a culture and what they mean for New Zealand. And then what that brings about in terms of freedom, in terms of, sovereignty as a nation and all that kind of stuff as well. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Epic, man. Hey, we've been going for like an hour 15. It's gone quick. It's been awesome. I think we should do this again, just on a specific subject and kind of spar on the subject a little bit and break it open. If you're open to that would be great. Are you open to that?
Awesome, man. Look, I've got a boxing bag right here, mate.
Boom. So just wrapping this up, guys, I know you enjoyed this. I feel like this has done its job to start to kind of infuse and inject hope here, but we'll have a second part to push the momentum a little bit. So just to wrap it up, Lee, is there anything that you are like, you want to say to people, a message in this time? Like, hey, I'm not hopeless, but I'm not hopeful. I'm somewhere in between. What do I do? How do I move? Anything you want to speak to these people?
Yeah, we're alive in this time for a reason, I believe. We're all born in this moment. We're all here. And so we all have purpose in this moment as well. And so I would encourage you, number one, is to, take that time of intimacy, just double down on it. Maybe you've never done before, start with 5 minutes. You don't have to do an hour in the morning. You don't have to do morning as well. You might want to do the afternoon, or you may have rotating schedule, whatever it is. Can I encourage you, just prioritize time, to be with him. However long that is, just start there and just be intentional about it. The second one would be to, always keep hope high. Even though it's hard to, see the dust piling up and everything taking place, keep hope high and know that you can always trust his heart even when you cannot trace his hand, and that we don't always have to understand the future. I think there's a little bit of a trap at the moment as well. And this is what I'm seeing, I'm getting questions, people are asking for specific details about their life. And I'm like, I'm not like a psychic or anything. So don't elevate me, kind of like that, but just know that we may not always understand the outcome of the future, but we can always trust the one who holds the future. And that's more important. Sometimes he wants us, sometimes he doesn't give us a picture of the future. Sometimes he just gives us a view of himself. And so know that your confidence in making decisions is directly related to your confidence in Jesus himself. And again, that comes back to intimacy. So in that place, you grow in confidence, you grow in trust, and that'll help you to keep hope high. And then the third one is just to do your best to love people in this moment, because there is so much pain, there is so much hurt, there's so much division, and people are in need of help. A lot of people have lost jobs and everything that's going on. We've lost our job, with things going on as well. But hey, God is good and we trust him, and he'll meet our needs, and he is meeting our needs. And so there are a lot of people in that position as well who are a lot worse off than, myself. So do your best to serve people and help people in this time. A problem that always plays in my head is, when it's in your power to help somebody, do it today. Don't tell them to come back tomorrow. So whatever you can do today, help. So intimacy, get alone in the secret place, prioritize it, keep hope high, always keep it high. He is good, he is faithful. In the end, we win, and then serve and help and love people along the way.
Come on, man. So many nuggets, so many bombs. Some of you, yes, you're going to rewatch it, but make sure to take that impartation, from the heart of the Father that's coming out through this man. I know you enjoyed the session. I can't wait for the next one now, because I think it's going to start to build some kind of momentum here. I just want to honor you, bro. I want to honor your heart, your humility, your desire to be real and raw. I really love that. This was so easy. It was so good. And I'm looking forward to everything that's going to come from now. It's going to be awesome.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it, man. And you are my brother. You are my brother, man. And I need to watch the replay to get the nuggets that you were dropping, man. Oh, my goodness. Like, I wanted to start asking you questions. And love your tribe here, man, and your family and what you're doing. And you guys are awesome. So I bless you guys. I honor you in the name of Jesus and everything that you're doing. And I speak abundance and prosperity and favor and courage and wisdom and everything that you need, everything we've already been given. We've been equipped for everything that the Father intends for us in the kingdom, and we walk from victory. And in the end, we win.
Come on, man. Awesome. There you go, guys. Make sure you connect with Lee. You can connect on Facebook, and I think he's also got Instagram. But if you just click that link on top, it'll take you to a video. Stay connected to him, because this thing's only going to grow, and it's going to be very, very powerful. So Lee, you stay with me, but everyone else, we're going to say goodbye, good afternoon, good evening, have a good day, and we will see you on the next one.
Faith and patience. Faith and patience. Patience means allow it to happen. Stay the same. Stay persistent. Keep going. Faith, know that it can happen at any moment. Get excited, because it can happen at any moment. You were so close. Don't quit now. Keep pushing. You got this.